Vulnerability has become a liability. The will has been broken and control of the mind has been compromised. Feeling empty. There's nothing left, spirit broken, held hostage by a negative power, unseen, being led by thoughts, images, and unidentified voices in my head that sound mistakenly like my own. Controlled, a puppet. Spiritually dead with an ample supply of the breath of life retained, void. Close my eyes and try to imagine a better place, a different race, different version of God's grace. Understanding beforehand the type of cards I was dealt. My trespasses feel the same shame that I felt. Look to the skies where people say cometh thy help. Lift my hands, make a sincere plea to God, but with no face or a voice believing becomes hard. Do I stay on this path? Am I on the right track? How much time did I lose when shit faded to black? Since day one, seems fallen angels have guarded this post. Surprising hopes and dreams that I valued the most. Imagine my place sacred to one where no place resides, black skies and a dark sun. No illusions, no confusion, and no place to run. Come to terms with the fact there's no progress looking back. Crooked path headed straight, all faded to black.
Wow.
That is a real depiction, artistically created. And of course, I have permission to share that with you today because it fits perfectly into what it is that we're going to be talking today about. And that is somebody that has been through it, as you can tell it. The title today is Human Beings Are So Quote-Unquote Cool in the Pain That We Bear. And I wanted to start out with that because this idea for the show today came from a very real session with the person that created that artistic display. And he is so cool. And I appreciate your willingness to allow me to share that with people because it demonstrates, what we have in our inside experience. And I think it was just so beautifully done that I wanted to share it to think about as we go through the show today, the pain that we all bear. And we're going to talk about what we want to do with that pain and what's ideal in kind of managing the stuff that we see through our therapist's eyes in sessions, right?
Yeah. This is through a therapist's eyes.
The human emotional experience. So if you're finding us for the first time, we usually do a Facebook Live. We're not doing that today on the YouTube version. You can see us dressed. This is my Saturday attire. My hat is awesome. Is it not, Casey?
It's
Morgan?
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
Nostalgic is what I would say. I like the sweat rings.
It's the weekend, man. This is my thing. I'm in my jam. I'll turn it around for you if that's better.
Yeah, that's much better.
Is that better?
Rally cap.
Yeah, man. No, that would be sad. I don't know. I do have that book out, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. We welcome you to Through a Therapist's Eyes, the podcast where you get personal insights directly from a therapist, or in this case, therapists, in your own home or personal time in your car. So you see the world through our lens, but be aware it's not delivery of therapy services in any way. Help us out, and thank you for listening. We really appreciate you listening around the world. We need those 5 stars. We need those Apple iTunes reviews. They really help us grow the show. We also have the merch button out there that you can get cool stuff, jigsaw puzzle, hats. We really got to get some of the expressions, slogans that we have out there. We haven't done that yet. We'll keep you posted there, but definitely help us because that makes a big deal. That makes a big deal to get us out to grow the show and the audience. And then contact at Through a Therapist's Eyes is where you can interact with us. And usually on the Facebook Live as well, we enjoy doing that. So the human emotional experience, and we do. We want to figure this out together. How you doing this Saturday morning, Miss Casey? How you doing over there?
I'm doing great.
You're glowing. You're like...
Damn, thank you so much. Thank you.
You can't get the smile gone. Like, what's up?
I know. I just have kind of like perma smile today.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
All right.
I'm in a good place. I'm in a pretty good mood today, so going to keep it going throughout the podcast.
All right. Cool. Well, I wanted to do some current events. It was interesting. If you listened last week, you heard us go on through the Uvalde thing. And I know the name of the city now, and that gives an indicator. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with it because we did do a whole show on it last time. But what I wanted to do with this is, just sort of revisit, like, some things that I've really been thinking about with this. as humankind now has 24-hour news coverage, I went through a therapistized tribe, and please definitely tell at least one person of this conversation. Because I really think that we need to learn how to handle the news.
Oh, yeah.
People don't handle the news real well. I think we suck at managing this new idea of being inundated with it. And I want to maybe highlight, I screw a lot of things up, but I want to go through real quick on what I did with this news as evidenced by when we did the show last time. It was going to be just a current event. We made it the whole show because it was a conversation I think you and I really needed to have. But I think at the time we didn't even know to pronounce the city's name, did we?
No.
Right? And I think that's because you and I did the same thing. Maybe you can model this as well. Because when you're watching over and over and over again, this creates, keyword, unnecessary anxiety for you that I think we've got to learn how to manage. I want people to be in tune with the news. And I want people to deal with the issues. But I want us to learn, get the news flash, know something's going on, and then turn it off. Like I think both you and I did. Did you do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do that a lot, just because I cannot consistently read and reread, and then I'll get down the rabbit hole, and then I'll go to click this link for this article that's linked to the, and then I'm hours in if I don't catch myself. Yeah.
And how does that affect your mental health? Unnecessarily so. Call your senators, be active, go protest, go give speeches, give talks, write blogs, do anything that you want to do to manage issues. I'm all about staying involved. But when you get news like that, shut it down and then rally yourself and then understand what's kind of going on. You'll get better information anyway. And that's what I wanted to highlight. Like, there's a lot of questions on what happened with the police officers after we spoke about it.
Oh, yeah.
What were people doing? How were decisions made? And they're going through this whole timeline and understanding things now. But whatever day that was, we didn't understand what was going on. Literally, the news was there while people were still trying to identify people.
Yeah, I think that's one really good rule of thumb is like I'll get the news flash, I'll understand that something has happened, and then usually I'll wait a couple of days before I try to interact with it, just because so much more will be out there then.
Right.
And there'll be less opinion and maybe some more fact.
Less opinion or hearsay and
That's
misinformation. Can I say that again? Less opinion and hearsay and misinformation a few days later. For real. So on the podcast I listened to, dated 5/31/22, we'll have it highlighted on the thing. They talked about how 11:58 they entered the school with like 19 police officers, and a kid was in the room with a 911 operator, with calls like until like 12:19 and even later. And so the big scuttlebutt was, what was going on? Why were we not going in? And the reason why that was the case, I understand, is that they made a decision that it was no longer an active shooter and that instead it was a barricaded assailant. Now, you can talk about why we made that decision and who made that decision, and they did. They examined those things in the show. But I just say that little piece of information because now we know this, and it is pretty factual. It's not an opinion. And now we can even have an adequate discussion about gun control or what's kind of going on. And I think the big discussion to have is the PTSD effects on these kids and these police officers and these teachers and the families and the community and so on. That's the discussion we need to be having the most.
Yeah. And I think that the truth is that is an acutely stressful event, right?
Oh,
so I think you have to even put that on a spectrum, that not everybody is going to internalize what happened in the same way. That just because I was somebody that attended school there does not mean that I am going to have the same experience as someone who may have been close enough to hear the actual footsteps of the intruder, right? Or something like that. But no matter where you were or how you're related to the event, or even as a participant in the community that's listening to the news, or you're listening to the news, 4 hours away or half a world away, it is an acutely stressful event that can drum up all kinds of things like vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, secondary trauma. And I
Fancy
think
names.
those are right. And so
Basically, that means it'll mess with you.
Right. Like I was going to say, to kind of bring that back down to like normal terms, like it's just basically that just because you weren't there and you weren't involved does not mean it doesn't have some sort of effect
Trauma
on your nervous system and
Right.
make you respond differently to your kids waking up the next morning and going to school.
And it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
It'll do a number on you. Yeah. So let's switch gears to another current event that you said was cool. We're going to talk about Cerebral real quick. What do you know about Cerebral?
I know that on my socials, Cerebral advertises all the time about ADHD medications. Well, for me, they're advertising about ADHD medications probably because I Google them all the time. So,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Now, did you look at the current event, or are you just saying that?
No, I just saw it on there. I was like, oh, Cerebral's on there. Like I know that that's like an online platform where you can get ADHD medication.
Wow. That is interesting that you present it that way, because I've seen Cerebral too.
Yeah.
And I know there's these companies that are kind of coming online doing different things. It's kind of interesting. Well, they got a little bit in hot water, and I thought it was interesting. And it's interesting the way that you just genuinely and organically cited your experience of Cerebral. Because listen to this. So the online company Cerebral is in trouble for Adderall prescribing practices from this Wall Street Journal podcast dated May the 13th. That I saw, why an online telehealth startup is limiting Adderall. And what happened is they had practices prescribing and pressuring the clinicians to prescribe these suckers and to even change diagnoses. And the company's auditing practices for the clinicians in Cerebral. And it's a big dollars to tune 150 mil last year, where was their profits, causing these alleged inappropriate practices with Schedule II drug that Adderall is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. They got money hungry. And they wanted to just shoot out scripts like left and right for people for Adderall. And the clinicians were like, yo, this is not okay. And thankfully, because we have licensing boards and we have oversights and stuff that we have as clinicians to uphold, and they were squawking hard, like, you can't do this to me. You cannot practice this way. You cannot tell me what to diagnose, for instance, or whatever. Like, is that not crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's crazy because Schedule II substances are nothing to mess around with, especially stimulant medications, and they're not for everyone. And I think everyone is not always an informed person when being prescribed that level of medication and what that means for your body. And so I think if you're uninformed or you're misinformed or you're working with a clinician that kind of has the power in that relationship, it's a very slippery slope and dangerous practices to say you need this diagnosis, you need to make sure this percentage is getting a prescription.
I mean, I'm passionate about this stuff, and this bothered me when I heard what was going on with that, because I don't take diagnosing lightly. I don't avoid it. I think it's important. But man, when you start having bureaucratic oversight on that kind of a thing, no, man.
Yeah,
No.
I think it really also, for me, in this chair, it cheapens the experience for people who really do need the medications. Like there are legitimate needs for Adderall. There are legitimate needs for methylphenidates and all the stimulant medications that come along, and non-stimulant medications that are now available for people with an ADHD diagnosis. But I think it cheapens that experience because then everybody's like, well, anybody who wants to can go get Adderall. And not everybody needs it. Really, about 1 in 12 people that have the diagnosis of ADHD actually meet the full criterion for ADHD. So
that's an interesting statement.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting, especially when I was working in the school system, thinking about teachers who would come to me and say things I've got like 11 out of 23 kids in my classroom that are like ADHD. And I'm like, that's not even statistically like possible. I don't think, at this point that like half of your class has this diagnosis. And so there is a lot of misdiagnosing when it comes to that. And so I think the fact that this online platform, which is hard in and of itself to even see the nuances of a person to assess them for attention deficit when you're online, I think it's really interesting. Plus, you're getting one shot at this individual. Most insurance companies only require an assessment to be completed within the first 6 sessions. And a lot of times you do a lot of differentiation when you're doing diagnosing. So people might come in and see me and I'm giving them like generalized anxiety diagnoses initially, because we do have to have a diagnostic code per appointment. But then later, as I get to know them better and maybe we look more in depth at some assessments, and we think about the whole spectrum of their life, then we can narrow it down to like an ADHD diagnosis versus anxiety. But from the jump, it's really hard to differentiate that if they don't already come in carrying that diagnosis.
Now, and I will say, I've said it 1,000 times, medications are very, very appropriate. They're a very helpful tool to manage mental health, but they're not a solution. Right?
No, and they don't change your situations.
Spot. Yeah, that's my landing spot.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not a solution. And anybody who tells any clinician, if there are young clinicians out there or even experienced clinicians, if anybody is putting pressure on you to supplant diagnoses for the purpose of pharmaceutical intervention, then that is clearly a no-no. Run away. That's a hell no situation.
It is a hell no.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll edit this episode if we need to.
Sorry. I'm not trying, but I'm just letting you know, like that is a no. That is a big no-no.
Right. So what does this quote mean to you, I guess, as you hear it? Human beings are so quote-unquote cool in the pain that we bear. It came from a real therapy session where we were talking about it, and I was like, man, what you're talking about, you're cool under pressure, cool in scope, cool in heart, cool in spirit. Like there's a lot of ways the word cool to me means. And we all have pain, and we're going to talk about the different types of pain that we go through. But don't we appear sometimes cool in that?
Yeah.
While we are bearing internally the pain that we have.
Yeah, I'm just so thoroughly impressed by every person that comes into my office, no matter their developmental or mental age. I'm so impressed by them because when I hear everything that they have been through and I see them in front of me as a person who
it is amazing
seemingly stoic, appearing to be strong, like this is an amazing process for people. And so I do think that people are so cool in that experience because they realize that the world keeps turning, and I have to keep up with it. So they try to push forward and they try to push through. And I think that they really do get to some cool places, and I'm really impressed.
It's an honor and privilege. It
really totally is. Like this is definitely a calling for me, but it really is a privilege for me to do this job.
So think about all the different things that we're talking about here. I mean, could we all carry a certain amount of pain? It's just a part of the human emotional experience, right? Pain from trauma, maybe a divorce that you've gone through or that you're looking at, separation. When you were just talking there, Casey, I was thinking of the family of origin with chemical dependency.
Oh, yeah.
The world just keeps on going on. Nobody understands as a child what I see in my home, and I reconcile that reality and know that I have to keep on moving forward. I mean, you said that, and I thought of the kids that are in chemical dependent families or having a critical parent who's just critical, chopping you down.
Yeah.
Neglect, high conflict family patterns or relationships, sexual molestations or abuse of some kind, abandonment, forms of engulfment, forms of abandonment. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we're experiencing. I don't know if I were to go a little bit longer with a list. I think that we could develop a list, being picked on as a kid, being stood up on a date, feeling body image issues, dealing with eating issues, it's just there's a lot of stuff that we walk around with, and we all look cool.
Yeah.
We all look cool.
Yeah. I mean, masking is a real thing, right? And I don't mean like COVID-19 masking. I mean, emotional masking, right? Like that's a real thing. And it's not because we really try to fake it till we make it, because I know that that's like a go-to term a lot of the time.
Which I don't think is terrible, by the way.
It's not terrible, but I mean, I do think we mask because we know that, we have to keep going. Like you can't just stop working when you're having a really hard day. You can't, not parent your children when they're still there. And so, I think that we do emotionally mask and physically mask our pain a lot and appear to be stoic and cool, even if we kind of feel disrupted on the inside or dysregulated on the inside. And even more so, I think some of our younger friends that come to see us, they are so diligent in being able to be resilient when things are falling apart around them. It is remarkable to me.
And I think that as I'm listening to you, the comment that comes to my mind is that that's in part what creates the positive benefits of the things that we go through causing pain.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Like it creates resiliency in
Yeah.
some ways. It creates a certain amount of quick decision making, street smarts, man. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that get developed in the life experiences that are causing us pain. Some of the hardest workers I know are operationally out of the pain of just anxieties and such.
Yeah. So in one of my previous jobs, I was the residential director for like group homes and psychiatric treatment facilities for children. And the kids that would come through and go through those programs, I mean, you wouldn't believe what they had endured. I mean, you would, but I mean, a lot of people would not believe what they had endured by the age of like 11.
I would believe it, but I would look at that kid and not have any idea.
You would never know.
Never know.
If you saw them at the mall, you would never look at them and say like, oh, this is a child that has been through like all of this like destruction and devastation in their life by the age of 11. But what we do see is we see people commenting, judging, and like putting forward thoughts about
opinions.
Yeah, and opinions about
Judgments.
What these people need to be doing, right? And so, like, or if that were my kid, I would just whip them. Or if
why
that
can't
were,
you get control of your kid? Oh, God, that drives me nuts when people
right,
throw
like,
that down.
Like, I would just beat them, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Like, they've survived so many beatings already. Like, things like that. So I think that, yes, we do try to mask it, but I think also as a population, we do look at people and we don't look at them as a population of people who have experienced an immense amount of pain. We judge behavior, we judge the outward appearance of what this person presents to us, and then make snap judgments on what they're doing currently. Like,
so
go ahead.
So it's funny. You guys are, you kids over here nailing you in the other side of the room. You remember the commercials, never let them see you sweat? You've heard the expression, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Remember I think it was deodorant commercials that kind of kicked that up. Do you remember those?
I mean, I might have been about 4 when that came out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, we had that as like a national kind of campaign.
Yeah.
That we bought into. And I was thinking about that expression, kind of preparing this show. Never let them see you sweat. Like, in my time, that was really valued, man. That was your go-to. That was what you aspired to be able to portray of yourself.
Yeah.
And gosh, how many people has that killed spiritually?
Oh, a lot. And I think it's the same thing, like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and things like that. Put on your big girl panties. Like, all of that stuff, I think, while there's a time and place for it, like, you have to kind of like get yourself up and kind of move forward in your life and be resilient. There's also something to be said about the vulnerable spaces that people can get in as well. But people are so cool in the pain that they bear, like, to where you would never know what's going on with a person if they don't tell you. And so I think
Keynote.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Just wanted to highlight that. Go ahead.
Sure. But I do think it's important to try to take some steps back and really think about, like, we don't know where a person's been or what they've been through, is what I was going to say.
So the next little spot is vanity. Mm-hmm. We allow our vanity to dominate exposure to what it is that we actually feel. And definition of vanity is excessive pride or admiration of one's own appearance or achievements, or the quality of being worthless or futile. The definition of vanity, right? I thought that was interesting. The quality of being worthless or futile. Like, that's what vanity is. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it's interesting words. I think words are really interesting, and the culture knows the whole meanings of stuff. Kind of, we use it, we feel it, we experience it. I didn't know that's what vanity really meant. I mean, I kind of did, but I guess I just experienced the essence of that word when I hear it or use it, and I feel like it dominates our exposure. You know, the sense of vanity that we have, or the fear of vanity that we have. Does that make sense?
Like, in what way do you think it dominates our exposure?
Well, being vain, like either we feel worthless or helpless in some way, and we don't want to demonstrate that, or because of our vanity, we are really consumed with the way that we appear. The insecurities that we have, the strengths that we have, the confidence that we wear on our sleeve or demonstrate to people, power interviewing, power speaking, or falling down and avoiding eye contact. Like the sense of vanity, our experience of ourselves, I think is all in the middle of the pain that we bear, whether we're hiding it or, exposing it, what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the truth is that when people are criticized, right? Because I think that a lot of our vanity is born out of the critical nature of things that have been said to us or said about us, and so we do in spite of, or we fall, like you said, and not make eye contact and we go in the other direction. But I think when people are criticized, they don't stop loving the people who are doing the criticism. They stop loving themselves. And so I think that that's a big deal to kind of highlight there, is that sometimes vanity comes from a place of a lack of self-love.
The quality of being worthless.
Right.
Or futile.
Right. So that core belief of unworthiness. And so I put forward this front of confidence and security in myself because of the things that have been said or done to me. And so I think that that's important to highlight there, that really when people are heavily criticized, they don't stop loving the people doing the criticism, particularly caregivers.
Yeah, I think you use the phrase hurt people, a lot.
Yeah, but I do think that you turn on yourself before you do other people. Usually.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Turn on yourself before you do that to other people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting reality. I think that you're on point, So how do we tend to attempt the avoidance of vulnerability? I wanted to think about that, for a moment with you, because, I mean, when you think of vulnerability, gosh, yeah, we definitely want to avoid that. We don't want to demonstrate that. We don't want to put that out there. And, I'll tell you, in the face of Uvalde, the Texas story that we just did some coverage with, how many of those police officers are going to feel comfortable in the space to demonstrate their vulnerability with what they've just endured? Instead, are they on the defensive? Why didn't you go in? Why didn't you do this? Who made that decision? Why didn't you X, Y, and Z? And I don't know that we allow ourselves or others in especially traumatic situations to be able to really be okay with a necessary part of processing the events, vulnerability.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I will never forget this experience as long as I live. My first exposure to doing like a root cause analysis on like every time there was a major event, right? When we were at the psychiatric rehab treatment facilities, every time there was a major event, we would look at like a root cause analysis, right? So we would sit around this table and we would talk through like what happened, and who did what and what did happen and what could we do differently the next time. And there was a person present. He was a nurse in the unit, and all of the workers had like barricaded themselves away from this aggressive child, like that was like 12 or 13 years old. And he was kind of holding the whole home hostage. And so the nurse intervened and really probably saved a lot of injuries from a lot happening to a lot of other people. But the nurse did not use necessarily like the appropriate taught technique in order to intervene. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was put in a compromising position. They just simply stopped the action from happening.
Okay.
The people around this table were ready to crucify this nurse.
Wow.
On the basis of their behavior. And there was one person, my mentor to this day, his name is also Chris, but there was one person, and this was before he and I were even like in that type of like friendship dynamic, but there was one person that spoke up and said, we are absolutely not going to put this on him. None of us at this table were there. None of us felt what he felt in that moment or the duty to respond or not respond given the situation. And I think that, to me, that has to be the perspective that we try to take with these police officers. You know, when you have protocol, you have jobs, these people also have families to go home to. Mm-hmm. That when we don't give perspective to the situation and know that we were not them, we were not the ones who had to decide when and how and what to do, knowing that there had already been loss of life on the inside, knowing that there were weapons being used, knowing
it's
that
difficult.
Like, it's just such a hard situation that when we approach the situation with why didn't you do this, we are not approaching from a place of understanding or building to a solution. We are starting from a place of blame. And there's really no place to go when we blame others than to be on the defensive end of that. And so even opening that conversation with them, I don't think has been very appropriate from any perspective, because we weren't there and we're not them.
I really appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that, Casey, because, I mean, we really, and the same thing goes with the teachers and, you know, just the different administrators and the things that go on. I mean, it's fair to have conversations. It's fair to develop protocols. It's fair to be able to have those discussions, but it's got to come from, you know, in our opening, you know, it's got to come from a place of grace. It's got to come from a place of, you know, allowing ourselves and the other people to have vulnerability in the circumstance so that we can really get at what's going on and recover.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just slamming down a barrier that haunts people literally, potentially for the rest of their life.
Right. Yeah.
You got a mic, sir.
I got to ask a question about this one. Do you see that the reaction of people outside of it, the blame game that they do, is that kind of almost one of their ways that they avoid vulnerability because they're trying to put pressure on someone else? And that's what I feel like is happening when something bad happens. It's not a matter of rationality. It's about whose fault is it, because I want to direct my vulnerabilities onto someone else and pass that buck.
Sounds like you've been in psychology school and been doing therapy for 20 years, bro. Like,
you learned some stuff from the show.
In a word, yeah, you're on point. I think it's a really excellent point. Because we really do like to project. We like to look at the other person. We like to pass the buck. We like to remain safe. We want to avoid criticism. We want to be all those things. I could go on.
Yeah, or we even want to continue to hold on to our own ideals about like gun control or lack thereof or whatever. And so we don't want to see situations necessarily for what they actually are, like just the facts of them. So we interject a lot of feelings into that, right? And so I think that's the whole thing of this matter, in my opinion, is that we look at something and we respond to it based on the feelings that are generated. But then if you actually take a step backwards and look at the objectable facts of things that happened and what actually transpired, then what you can see is that there were a lot of systems at play. There were a lot of decisions that were being made behind the scenes. There were a lot of things involved that an individual would have to make, basically a game time decision to be able to decide how, when, and where to respond.
Not even a game time, but a decision in the moment. It's just the second.
Exactly. Like in a split second. And it's life or death. And so I think that when we look at not just law enforcement, but any type of respondent.
How about this? This is getting so deep.
Yeah, sorry, but go ahead.
It's the kid who's in the room making a split decision.
Correct.
It just breaks my heart to use their classmates', I'll just say it, blood to let them appear dead and play possum. Mm-hmm. That's how some of those kids survived. Yeah. I mean, these are amazing. And I'll take it off of Uvalde and go to situations in your home with sexual molestation. And we used to blame the victim a lot for being scantily dressed and causing unwanted attention, mm-hmm. or the many variations of circumstances that we find ourselves in, and you have these trauma reactions going. Remember what happens when your amygdala is firing off with chemicals and hormones, and cortisol just coursing through your veins. I mean, are you going to be the best decision maker?
No, because
Yeah.
you're not even accessing the frontal lobe of your brain during
Right.
that time.
You're not thinking. You are completely offline and you're just getting through, which is why a lot of these circumstances that come up for the first time in this person's life in our office, 23 years later, for the first time, you can actually work with wrapping your thinking back around that process so that you're not immediately offline again, because you will get offline again. That's why people tend to just move on and move on to the next and to the next kind of events.
Yeah. And I just,
That's a trauma reality.
it is. And I can't even imagine, because really, and I think we talked about this last show too, but the honest truth is that it is not in our immediate human nature outside of a protective stance to look at another human being and attempt to take another life, right? And so while this happened and while other situations happen where, we're in times of war and things like that, it's not within the nature of being to do that. So it is stepping outside of ourselves. And so I can't even imagine as an adult to come into a situation where there is a child that is like shooting other classmates and things like that, but that there's a younger person that looks significantly younger than me, and then my job is to take them out,
Yeah.
and
people
and
go
I'm
through
not trying to
training-
say, and I'm not trying to say right, wrong, or otherwise, or anything
Right.
like that. Like, I don't want to make this a political statement, but I think it is not within
It's the
our
emotional
nature.
reality.
It's
Let
the
me jump
emotional
in-
reality.
Let me
yeah.
jump into what you're saying, because I think that you'll
Yeah.
get it. It's the human emotional experience. There's a book right over there, if you see it, on killing.
Yeah.
Okay, and that guy, pull that out. Sergeant Grossman, I think, is his name. It's a second
I'm
shelf.
sunk down into this chair.
Oh,
So
dear.
sorry.
Okay, that's cool. Well, his name is Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, I'm pretty sure, and he did a whole study on this. He's a military veteran of many
Yeah.
years, and he looked at all the times back to the Civil War, to the Revolutionary War, and how many muskets were like not shot out of the guns,
Yeah.
like of people. It's a thing. We know that it's not a natural state to be in.
Right.
And we've inoculated ourselves from the act of killing, so much so that we don't think chickens actually get killed. We just go to Kentucky Fried Chicken,
Oh, I know they get killed.
It's so well, let's not degenerate.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, but we haven't seen it. It used to be a part of farm life and family life, and
yeah.
that was a sort of a part of the cycle of life and stuff. Native
Oh,
Americans would
yeah.
get the buffaloes and all of the but now it's not.
Or you're just drinking sweet tea on the porch and somebody's chopping the chicken's head off over
Yeah.
there on the stump.
It's right, literally.
Right,
That's
yeah.
the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And so it's not natural, even more so now in the way that we operate, is I think what you were kind of saying when
Yes.
you're dealing with traumatic reality.
Yes. And so it's really easy on this side of pain to look at someone else experiencing that and saying, I would have done that differently.
But look at how we bear this. This is
Yeah.
like, again, we're so cool in the pain that we bear. And I'm even looking and thinking about the SEAL team that talked about when they went to Osama bin Laden. It's a quote that I'll never forget. The interviewer, somebody was interviewing them, like, wow, well, what was that like? I mean, how did that work when you were doing this? And, they were researching the book or whatever. I mean, did you run in? Did you have, they're like, no, you don't run into a gunfight.
No.
We took one step painfully slow at a time, turning a corner, having to take down a gunman, and 5 more steps very purposefully and methodically. You don't just run in, dart in, dash in, you get killed.
Right.
So training can really help with a lot of these things is
Yeah.
part of my point there, but part of what, the myths are about all this. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah. It's traumatic. And then I think too, even thinking about it from the perspective of the aftermath of it, like walking out of the building, right? So you are let's say an officer or something, or you are a teacher, or you're somebody that's directly involved. And then you're told by lots of officials, you're not allowed to talk about this. So then you go home to your support system and you can't even discuss really what happened because it's still under investigation. So there's no effort at support. Nobody's calling each other. You're just left by yourself with your thoughts on what just transpired.
Or where he just took me the child who has a family member that's being inappropriate sexually, and they say, "I will kill you if you
or
share
your mom.
this with somebody."
Yeah, or your dad. Yeah.
Or your dad, right?
Yeah.
Like, or your brother, or lockdown, baby.
Yeah.
Lockdown.
Complete isolation.
It's
and
terrible.
so yeah, it's crazy.
It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But that's the pain that we're bearing.
And that's the emotional realities of it.
Or just even simply, let me even make it a little simpler, right? You had a pack of girls, and you were just stood up by the guy who was a jerk, and the girls are definitely going to be picking at you. Mean girls being mean to each other. So you're not going to say anything about, I wasn't even picked up. They didn't come, and I don't want to share that. I'm embarrassed. Or the guy who went to the meeting place and she wasn't there. The guy's not going to go back and tell my buddies, "Oh yeah, it was great. Well, she wasn't there." Because I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I'm insecure with it. I'm then thus alone. And we're going to develop a list here. We're moving soon to what are desired responses when we're in pain. And you see the foreshadowing. Don't be alone. Is that one?
Yeah.
The things that we could say.
Yeah. Even if it's just situationally alone. So I even encourage people that I work with on a regular basis that, okay, so I get you're kind of introverted, things like that. But if you're going to work on something, like you got to type a paper or whatever, why not do it at the local coffee shop? Why not do it at Barnes and Noble? Put yourself in an environment that isn't isolative so that you at least have kind of the wrestling and hustling of other people, that environmental kind of factor that can help with that.
What about the opposite? You ever think much about overexpression?
Me? No, I do not ever think about that.
That just does not exist.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, I do know for myself, I do notice when I need some alone time. I put my kids on what's called no touch policy, which because if they're around me, they are they either hold my hand or touch my arm or have to touch.
They're very touchy.
They just touch me with one finger on my leg. And so at a certain point, it's just overstimulation. I'm like, please, nobody touch me right now. And then that's when I know I need to go and isolate myself somewhere for a little bit. But
right. No, well, yeah. So what I was thinking there is, the opposite is true too. I was thinking of people that are having all kinds of emotional pain inside, and they, explodes out so regularly. We've talked about borderline personality disorder on the show, or people that have narcissism, which they're acting terribly narcissistic, which is prickly. We did a show on that too a few months ago. But it's coming from that place of pain or anxiety, where people are just all on edge and literally just screaming inside themselves that it comes out, and they're hyper or agitated or wiry, a lot of times that's coming from the pain that people are bearing, so it can be overexpressed just as much as, probably more commonly, I think I'm going to say, underexpressed.
Oh yeah.
Right. Let me say that again. It can be overexpressed, I think more commonly, though, equally so underexpressed.
Yeah.
So the interaction between people in our lives over the years when we're bearing pain, is important to kind of look at what level am I? Where am I at?
Yeah, I think that's another key factor here is to know yourself.
Which probably, by the way, you're either one or the other, underexpressing it or overexpressing it.
Yeah, and you can be both.
At different times. But my point is, it's really, really hard to be in a sweet spot.
No,
It's perfectly impossible to be perfectly expressive.
Yeah. And I know for myself, when I'm overexpressing, I feel like I'm doing a great job. I feel like, oh my God, I'm doing a great job. Nobody knows that I'm ridden with anxiety right now. And then the truth is, it's everybody knows that I'm ridden with anxiety because they're you're talking 5 miles a minute. You've had 11 cups of coffee. Chris can attest to this fact. He sees me every day at the office. He knows, if I'm he's like, "You okay, girl?" I'm like, no.
Yeah. And probably same.
Yeah, it is. I feel like we know each other well enough now to where we can be hey, what's going on with you? Let me check in with you real quick. Yeah.
And isn't that an act of kindness?
It is. It's nice.
And isn't that important?
It's so important.
To do with the people that are in your circles and allow back to where we became, right? And allow for that level of vulnerability. Appropriate, of course, professional boundaries, safe marital boundaries. We talked about that not too long ago. The realities of human relationships, but to allow that pain to be real on the level that your relationship applies. As a matter of fact, a great guidance that I've kind of created, because I've wondered about that. Oversharing, not sharing enough, like how do you manage that? You want to share on the level that is consistent with what the relationship you're sharing with is. So if you barely know somebody, you're just playing softball together and you're fun buddies, you're really not going to share a whole lot about what happened last night or what your life was 20 years ago when you were growing up. But if you're talking to your bestie or your boy, bestie's girl, boy is boy, right? Did you know that? That's a thing. Yeah, besties are girls, aren't they? Isn't that true?
That sounds really sexist.
Dudes can't have besties.
Yes, they can.
Can we?
Yes.
Neil, just give me a head shake. Yes or no? Can boys have besties?
You can have best friends, but you can't have besties.
No. Dude, we don't have besties.
I am so sorry.
That is like a thing. Yeah, no.
That is like the most sexist thing you've ever said.
Wow, ever?
Ever.
Well, then Neil did too.
I'm looking at you. This is your show.
Oh, wow.
You better back it up.
Okay. No, I'm not backing off that one, man.
Okay, fine.
Whether it's your boy, your best friend, we'll just avoid the term altogether. How about that?
That's fine.
I've really angered her, everybody.
No, I'm just saying, I have a couple of guy friends that would call me their bestie.
Well, that's different. Go ahead.
But you're a girl.
Right.
So if you have a female friend, you can call her a bestie.
Yeah.
Oh.
I never have, but
I haven't either, but it's just kind of, there's a different way to say it. As
Got
a guy, I don't want to be called a bestie.
right.
All right, bruh.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. I'm better with that. But see, my youngest has called my wife bruh, just out of passing.
That's a term of endearment.
Exactly.
House.
But that's weird. If I called you a bruh, I was like, that's just weird. Now I'd call you my bestie. Now I'd call Chris my bruh and you my bestie.
Right.
And there's
I can't call Neil my bestie.
No.
Why?
But we have degenerated completely out of the target.
Keep going.
Let me kind of say, if you're really
Chris apologizes.
talking to somebody that is really close to you, then you're really going to want to go on a high level of information so that you're really kind of engaged. And hopefully the closest person, which is the most difficult, is your spouse, or your faith creator. That's an everything relationship there, hopefully, which is scary and intimidating. So, but you don't do that with your new buddy that you just met and you've hung out a couple of times. So you gauge the level of sharing with the level of relationship that you have.
Yeah, I think that's
desire.
very appropriate. But I also think that when you are in a space where you have experienced maybe significant trauma, then you may have found yourself in a position where you have overshared with people. And what we call that clinically is being inappropriately familiar with people. And that does come from a trauma base. So a lot of times people that experience highly intensive emotional things may overshare. And that's because you are still in that survival brain place and not in that reasoning and logic understanding place. Once you get there, you look back and you're like, oh man, why did I tell them that? Why did I share that with them?
Right.
Same thing, if you go out.
Although that's created friendships for me sometimes.
For sure.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, vulnerability, there's a lot of power in vulnerability, but I think that I just wanted to throw that out there because, there's multiple times where I'm like, I can't believe I shared that with them because I was just in a space,
Yeah, it just came out.
It just came out, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what is ideal.
Okay.
How cool we are in the pain that we bear. What ideally do we want to do? And I put some time to this and thought to this. On what's the best vision look like, right? So I see what you think about these, Casey, or start off with things that you have off the mind. Do you have anything firing?
No, I just want to hear what you have to say. And then
avoiding the terrible, strong tendency to hide it from others, hide it from ourselves. I mean, that's got to be probably number one.
Yeah. I think I've said it multiple times on the show. You have to feel the feelings so that you don't become them. Right.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to do suppression of pain, first of all, it comes out. I want everybody to know that's listening. It's coming out. It's coming out on the people you love. It's coming out on the grocery store clerk. It's coming out on the freeway. Wherever it's coming out,
Drug
it's coming
use,
out.
road
It's coming
rage.
out in a plethora of ways. So feel those feelings so that you don't have to overwhelmingly become them. So if you're feeling hurt, if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling the pain, it is okay to feel the feeling, recognize it, do something about it, and then you can move forward. If you don't recognize it, do something about it, then you end up becoming that feeling some way, somehow with someone else.
And it acts out.
It's always a behavior.
And here's a second follow-up to that. In my methodical management of skills list, that I've been working a lot lately, doing some professional speaking engagements, which I've enjoyed, by the way. I can come talk to your group, your company, your people. I would enjoy that. Check in on it. So what you were just saying adds to, or prefaces, actually, a very specific emotion management tool that I think is awesome, of checking back in on stuff, purposefully allowing and calling that feeling and emotion forward. It might have been 15 years, but just check back in on it, see what's there, and allow it to be, because then you can kind of manage it even more.
Yeah.
So later on, next week, next month, next year, I just shared literally today my buddy, my boy Aaron Clark, whose son, 13 years old, died. We went to the graveyard today and celebrated his fourth anniversary of that today.
Wow.
That's what I was doing before here today.
Was that your bestie?
It's not my bestie. He's my boy. Aaron's my boy.
Yeah.
But it was a powerful, poignant reality, and we've checked in on it. Like, he's purposefully multiple times check in on it. See what's there. And he read a letter to his son today for the second time. The first time was really choked up, and he's still struggling with it. And I'm pretty sure next year he'll do it again, and he'll progress with that. He's going to evolve because he's continually checking in on the pain that he has from his son having died.
I love that so much for so many reasons, but I think the biggest overwhelming reason is that there's not a time limit on pain.
No, right.
So I just want to say that, like, just as a blanketed statement, there's no time limit on pain.
Yeah, that's a good statement.
Yeah.
In my book, chapter 11, I wanted to highlight because I think it applies here really well as another idea of what's ideal, right? Like, what's the desirable responses to pain that we have endured long ago, more recently, or are enduring? Chapter 11, the title is Accepting Things is Part of Our Emotional Growth. I think that's a cool title that I write about in there, but I'll give you some excerpts. The do is accept limitations, events, and characteristics. Don't resist and fight against what is true. And I just think that plugs right into like what that's an ideal that you're striving for when you're dealing with pain. So I talk about the three A's: awareness, acceptance, and action in that particular chapter. I said, be aware we might have shut ourselves off from the reality and not even know that we're a victim of something, like sexual abuse even, right? You might not even realize what you endured or did go through kind of qualifies.
Yeah.
Maybe not severe and extensive, but it's in there. It's inappropriate, but you might not even realize it. Quote from the book: if we develop our willingness to take action, we will find the appropriate action to take. I don't know if that's on the deal, Neil, in our quotes, but I think that's one we need to hit. Again, if we develop our willingness to take action, we will find the appropriate action to take. How's that?
Yeah, I love that, because the truth is we all possess the ability to act, but we don't always enact the willingness to act.
God, I can't tell you how many times people tell me, like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. And it's a stuck spot that people can stay stuck in for years.
Forever.
Or always. And that's...
Yeah. What a hard place
like,
to
that's
be.
not a good time.
It's not. And it's a really hard place to be. And that's why I'm so encouraging of anybody who has never tried therapy before to really consider it. Because the truth is sometimes we get into stuck spots and we don't even know that we're stuck. Because it's just our life. This is the life that we live. This is how we've always done it. This is what we've always gotten. And so we feel like this is our station. And we get stuck there, and that becomes our new normal. In fact, your brain actually assimilates to your new normal. And so it just starts being responsive to where you are now because you've done it for so long. And then it's just normalized. So you don't even know that you're held up or stifled or,
Because
in a
guess what?
stuck-
That may have happened
stuck
when you were
place.
7.
Right. And you're just stuck there and you didn't know that. And so your emotional growth has not really stepped up with your chronological age. And so you're wondering why you're acting like a hormonal teenager raging out, doing crazy
And
things.
listen,
And here we are.
that's kind of common.
Very common.
It really isn't a rare reality.
No.
We
And
we
so-
are talking to you who very well might be listening.
Listen, I'm
this
talking to me.
episode. Right?
Who are you talking to? Like, I'm talking to me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are multiple things that I never knew I was stuck on in my life until
Oh, absolutely.
I went through
through
the
my own
therapy
journey, I've
experience.
looked at some of
Yeah.
the things I've said. I'm like, why did I just say that?
Yeah.
Or people have asked me the question. That's where, it popped to me between the eyes. Like, well, what does that mean to you, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's a great
I
question.
don't know.
Yeah.
I had to really think about
I love that.
that. So I want to check out the book, man, because not that I want to sell some books. I don't make that much money from it, but I think it's very, very helpful to look at these things that are in there. So the 3 A's, awareness, acceptance, and action. Regarding acceptance, I think I remember writing this out of the book. This can be the hardest as we tend to be fighters in life. Fighting to conceal or fighting to rectify or maybe fighting even for revenge of some sorts. Like we are naturally, to a man, woman, and child, like fighting in this world. We're fighting with hunger. We're fighting with our nutrition. We're fighting literally with our siblings or with our spouses or with ourselves a lot of times. And so this acceptance, I spent more time on it than awareness and finding action in the chapter because man, it's so hard to accept when some stuff has really gone down in front of us or around us or in our lives.
Yeah. Or I think we get hung up on I should statements like I shouldn't have to accept this.
Could, should.
Yeah.
I would have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to accept it. Yeah.
So the idea that I think I go into the book as well is work towards calling things what they are. Perceptions can be a deterrent. Maybe an outside objective, quote unquote, especially underlined, bold, printed, italicized in bold, safe source is needed to manage, to calm the fight down, get real with the vulnerability, the events, call them what they are, and move forward making thoughtful decisions about what it is that we're going. I think there's a lot there.
Yeah. I had my pastor, he said something this past Sunday. It was really awesome. And it was about the word lack. So he was going through a verse and one of the words used in the verse is the word lack. And he said, we see lack sometimes as such a like plight word, right? Where it's like, I don't have enough of, I don't have this, I don't have that. But really, lack is not meaning that there's a plight or something is against us. It's more so a shift of perspective that's needed. And I'm
lacking?
like, wow, yeah. And so,
Okay.
like, when we think about relationships,
dig that.
we think about other things in life, like when we feel like there's a lack of something, that sometimes really it's more the acceptance of a different perspective that's needed.
So I don't lack patience in my life with my kids or, with family. I just need a different perspective.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we see it as lack, we see it as like a plight, like this insurmountable thing.
Something's against me.
Yeah,
or
something's against me.
I'm
but
stuck. Or
yeah, but really, it's a shift in perspective that's needed. That I, this is something that isn't beyond me. That I can, ascertain these things.
yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
So let's move on a little bit with develop a better understanding of that cool therapy question. And I just kind of highlighted it, right?
Yeah.
Like it is an excellent thing that you can do right there in your car or right there in your home. Maybe you get out a piece of paper and you're thinking about what your point of pain is, any one of them. And you can just say, what does blank mean to me? Right? And just ponder that and allow that to go around your mind because what comes up will amaze you sometimes. And then when you check it out with people, again, that are safe, that you're closer to, you could be like, wow, like, that doesn't have to mean that to me anymore. I can develop resiliency. I can develop groundedness and actually give it another meaning for myself. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And we've seen that powerfully through our eyes in therapy. But again, you could do that in your own home, in your own mind, on your own journal, right? So what does X mean to me is an excellent question to always ask.
Yeah, I love that. And even when I'm working with couples, right? You've talked about a lot of marriage stuff as of late, but when I'm working with couples, I will even say, how is X pain, right? Like blank pain or insert whatever painful experience preventing me from being the best partner that I can be?
Yeah.
Like how are my ideals on divorce preventing me from being the best partner that I can be? How are how is this pain from childhood preventing me from being the best partner that I can be? And so I think it's really interesting. And you can insert words in that statement however you want to, like the best employee that I can be, the best father or the best mother that I can be, so on and so forth.
The best therapist
The
that I
best
can
therapist, absolutely, that I can be. How is my current personal circumstances preventing me from being the best therapist that I can be? That's something I have to reflect on all the time.
And I got turned around the opposite side of that too, Casey, too, in how does this help me?
Sure.
To be what I want to be.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of aid that creates as well, too. Boy, some of the things I've been through in life have definitely helped me become a better therapist. I can tell you that. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So let's move on a little bit. In episode 163 was a good highlight. I mean, that was a cool show when we talked about the core beliefs. That was the core beliefs episode. So develop awareness in similar fashion as to what core beliefs may have developed.
Yeah. And
we took a deep dive on that. I'm not going to spend any time on it here. But quote unquote, challenge the assumptions we live by was what. Well, actually, I think that was the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Here's one that I like to highlight insofar as, again, what are the ideal responses to our pain and stuff? Pay attention. Pay attention to your body.
Yeah.
Like your body will tell you when something's up if you let it. Now you can shut it down. You can drink it away. You can numb out. You can literally shut down your feelings to the point where you feel like you don't have any. There's numbness, great numbness people can get into. Of course, you numb out the joy as well. But if you open yourself up to yourself, which sounds crazy, right? But if you open yourself up to yourself and just pay attention to your body, you're going to feel it.
Yeah. You cannot selectively numb, though. Like you said.
No, yeah.
You cannot selectively numb, but you're absolutely right. Like when you are at rest and you are feeling like your best self, that's one way. But as soon as that train takes off from the station, you know if you're activated in some way.
Yeah, and you don't hear this. This is an important thing. And you don't want to ignore that.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Do not ignore what your spirit, because it's yourself.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell yourself, literally, that there's pain here that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. I mean, on a biological and physiological level, your brain is literally telling your body that you are in emotional pain.
Yeah. Yeah, and we like to forget it. Don't want to see ourselves sweat, whatever, like stop.
Whatever that 1970s commercial was when Neil and I were not alive.
I know, right? You said you were 4. You remembered it. You were alive. It ain't that bad.
1987.
It was 87. It was about there. Is that when you were born?
No, I was born in 1983.
83. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What was it?
When you graduated from high school.
Yeah, I know that. No, I graduated in 91. Again, it ain't that bad. Anyway, okay. Allow emotional expression. Cry, right? It is okay. Or elsewise, to laugh, when you're feeling something. Funerals are amazing because you'll see a breath of wealth. People laughing hysterically and then a half hour in a puddle on the floor. It's one place that, people are allowed to cry is in a funeral. I think it's funny, silly, but, allow the emotional expression to occur. Why did we learn along the way that this was inherently a bad thing? I don't know. But we learned a wrong lesson somewhere. Allowing emotional expression to occur, whether be it happy, positive, negative, sad, or otherwise. Allow it.
We're taught that like this has to be a weakness, right? Like these are weaknesses, and the truth is it's not. It's just a biological process of the body.
Literally.
Yeah.
And did you know there's 3 different types of tears?
Salty.
Nope. Nope, not salty ones. They're all salty, I guess. No, it's an interesting fact. Like you just said biological, it
Yeah.
popped in my brain. So there are tears that you have to clear. It's very, very watery. And you'll see, when you got something in your eye, like it just drips out. Like it's just very, very watery and thin. And then there's tears that we have for moisturization. And it's thicker. And it's there to moisten the whole system of your eye. But then when you're in sadness or in pain, that is the thickest type of tear. And do you know that they have actually broken that down chemically, and there's pain-killing chemicals, painkiller tears when you're sad and crying for emotional pain. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
It's absolutely biologically true. Your body is geared and designed to do that. Let it be. Let it go. Let it happen. I wish I could drill that into your brain. Next and last, be careful about rumination. Okay, the action stuff in my book chapter helps to avoid this, but boy, rumination, you can get suffocated. You can get shut down if you just stay in a circular ruminating pattern about what somebody did or what you experienced or what happened, and just spin it and spin it, spin it and spin it and spin it. Like, I know this is a list of ideal things to do, but it occurred to me that we want to avoid that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the biggest pitfalls that I see is the ruminating factor, because sometimes when we get into a stuck space, it becomes
Stuck or suck?
stuck.
I like to say suck space too.
Or suck space, yeah, stuck space, and all the suckery that can happen with life. But what I do believe is that once it becomes normalized, that sometimes it becomes comfortable as well, and so that's where some of that red flags come in for me, is that if we get comfortable there, sometimes we choose not to move from that space. So when there is an opportunity to do something about something, to do something different, to create a new pattern, take that opportunity and that initiative, because when we do choose to ruminate, and even though it's comfortable at that place, what we are choosing is a form of acceptance that is detrimental to our mental health. So we want to take that initiative to do something different, because it is true that if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten, right?
Yeah,
So
it's an expression.
You've got to break the cycle of behavior, break that pattern, and the way to do that is to recognize, like, hey, this ain't it. This ain't it for me. Like, I need to do something different.
The first one and the last one we started with this too is, I'm going to say it again, like, don't be alone with this. We've got a sexual survivor. Neil, I've been calling this a video experience that I want to go with, that we're creating. A highlight on there, is like, dude, don't be alone with this. This is when you have whatever pain it is there to bear, don't do that alone. So closing thoughts, and I want to get us out of here, Casey. What do you think? It's good conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think people are really cool. I think our brains are cool, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has ever given me the opportunity to work with you in your painful experiences, because it's helpful to me in my experience, and I just hope that this show blesses and keeps all of you.
Ditto on that for sure. Look, people are amazing. People are resilient. You've been through pain. You have pain, because we all have it. I hope that you've heard some things that you can get, as an ideal to kind of work through them and manage them in their life, because they don't have to own you anymore. In our video experience that we're creating, the title is going to be, this is a little bit of foreshadowing, "This Shall Not Defeat Me." After sexual abuse. That's what we're starting with, and I'm excited about doing that project, because the pain does not have to win. And you stay with us, stay tuned, stick with us. We will continue to figure this thing out together. Take care and have a great week.